just would not have sex, and that's a part of human experience, intimacy from another person, and I completely cut myself off from that upon hearing my diagnosis. So it empowered me much like it did other women.
So my name is Dawn, and when those of you who just walked up, I was diagnosed in 1988 when I was 19. So it's been a long journey, so when the U equals U messaging started to get out and hit, it was in many ways a confirmation of something that many of us had believed for a long time. It always feels good to have that science to validate it. But I found myself as a treatment geek and as a person who was really interested in the science, struggling with how much I could really adopt that, because in my mind for so many years I had to explain to people that, there's probably very little risk, but I can't tell you that there's no risk. And I really struggled with how we balanced the message and the importance of the message with how exact science can actually be. So on a personal level, it was liberating. I think that's how many of us have felt. The idea that you are kind of a whole person again in ways that maybe you might not have felt for a while, and that was incredibly important. It took me a little longer as I was grappling with how we really make sure that all of the downstream impacts of U equals U are addressed for women, because I was immediately concerned about violence against women who didn't take their meds or who were somehow perceived not to be doing what was necessary. So some of that stuff made me a little bit hesitant and slow on the train.
For those who just walked up, I'm Gina Brown, a woman living with HIV 24 years. I met Bruce in 2016 at USCA, and it was because I had on a shirt that he also owns, and we connected over that shirt. And then he was jumping up and down, and he was telling me about U equals U, and I was standing there saying, he is a nut. I don't know if I believe this. And I heard of treatment as prevention, and I thought U equals U was a different thing. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go home and do a little research and see what I can find out about this. And Bruce and I had exchanged information, so I was able to ask him more questions. And then I got it, and I said, oh my goodness, this is true. And I should have known it was true because I was pregnant when I was diagnosed, and I did a study called 076 where I took AZT, and I had to give my baby AZT for 6 weeks. And she's not living with HIV. She's 23, she'll be 24. So I should have known, but I guess it was hearing the two different words. Treatment is prevention and U equals U. But now I am 100% a believer. I am invested in it. I talk about it all the time. I talked about it with my mom, with my sisters, and they're not living with HIV, but they should still know this information. And I do it in our trainings. And I tell you, one of the best days of my life, Miss Maxine, was meeting your son, Bruce.
Thank you all. So I think you've answered some of this, but I'll give you another opportunity to say more about how you feel about U equals U now on a personal level. And you talked about talking to other women. What, if anything, are you excited about it? Do you still have any concerns? I know you talked about the tension around the exactitude. How absolute 100% can science be before you're convinced of something? And when you've been living for a long time with one kind of knowledge, how do you shift easily and trust it? I think you've raised that as well. So how are you feeling about it now?
Let's go in reverse order.
It has been really liberating. Like Tiami said, I haven't been on a dating scene in a long time. And it was like, I'll never, date again. This stuff will never happen for me. And then I got this information. And now I'm not afraid. I've always disclosed my status, but I'm not afraid of getting in a relationship now. I feel like for the first time I can breathe as a woman and feel like a woman. I date women, and I know that the risk for woman to woman is low, But even like to meet a negative woman and to tell her this, it's like, what? You know, it's that kind of thing. It's like, all right, and there's no fear. So I feel really good about it. I want to say, Judy.
I want to do a follow-up. Since you give me the opportunity, if you don't mind. So how do the women react, the potential partners react when you tell them this? Do they believe it?
First of all, they all think I'm the smartest person on earth.
Well, you are. I know that.
But they do, they believe it. And I show them the proof. You know, I bring them, we have a Facebook page. And I show them as people are signing on to it. Like, look, CDC signed on. Look, you know, this person signed on, NASDAQ signed on. Our agency, the Southern AIDS Coalition, we signed on. So making sure that I'm able to show them the proof in this. And that it's not just a case of me saying, you know, this is happening, but wink, wink, not really. No, it's really happening, and I have proof that I'm undetectable. So I make sure that I keep up with my lab work and everything.
So how do I feel on a personal level? I have 3 children, 2 of whom I gave birth to. And when I was first diagnosed, obviously it was a very long time ago, I thought that was never going to be possible. So I spent a lot of years, I think I became a science geek and a treatment activist because the fact that I was ostensibly not going to be able to have children was so debilitating for me that I wanted to understand everything I could possibly understand about this disease. And I finally got to a place where I felt like I understood it well enough and I was confident enough in the science and the data and the information to make the choice to go ahead and have children. So I have a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old daughters that I gave birth to while I was on treatment. And to Gina's point earlier, obviously U equals U is a message about sexual transmission, but some of the science around understanding transmission was really critical for me, especially in the early days. And then when U equals U came along, what it did was made it possible for me to have kind of revisit what seems like hundreds of conversations, but were probably not nearly that many, with partners and others where I would say, well, they say, whoever they are, that, you know, if I take these medications and my virus is undetectable and all of these things, it's very unlikely. But that kind of a caveat in your conversation kind of makes the whole conversation go away. And all of a sudden, I started imagining what all of those conversations would have been like if I had been able to say, we now know that if my virus is undetectable, that I won't transmit this virus to you. And now I don't have to live in fear of that, and you don't have to live in fear of that. And that's a radically different conversation. It's extraordinary to be having the conversation now. I think it's even more extraordinary to be having it at a time where we can now use it to really fully embrace our own strength and deal with this criminalization stuff and deal with the things that are going on in our communities that are really keeping people with HIV oppressed and stigmatized and not handled the way we, as full first-class citizens that we actually are. So it's an extraordinary moment in time.
Wow. For me, in this moment, like I'm so happy. I am so happy because I just think about like the past 2-3 months of what's been going on, like in my personal life, and the people who have reached out to me, already having researched this message, hadn't even talked to me about whether they were living with HIV or not, but they followed me. They followed me and they listened to me, and it's a small town, Helena, Arkansas. I mean, racism very much rampant, you know, anti-black is very much rampant, you know, like even within my own community, but my community of black people are researching the message of U equals U. we may not talk about HIV, but they're doing the work. They're doing the work to protect themselves, and then they reward me by telling me about this. You know, they reach out to me on social media, all types of ways. Those who have my phone number, they call me. They make sure they get in contact with me because I'm the resource that they see. And they see how much I believe in this, and they know me like from my days in school and how smart I was, right? And so they know that I'm just not going to trust anybody's information. I have to do the research myself, and so it just really makes me proud to be Black in this moment, you know, knowing how the disease affects us in disparaging ways, right? But we're actually taking steps to protect ourselves, and I didn't think about U equals U as treatment as prevention either, but that was the message that I heard coming in here, and I believe that. I said it, if I'm on effective treatment, I can't pass the virus. Essentially, that's what U equals U is saying. That's what it's saying. If you are undetectable for 6 months or longer, you cannot transmit the virus sexually to your partner. And that meant a lot to me, being a trans woman and all of the negative stereotypes that I hear when it comes to transmission. I was not a sex worker. I was in love. I don't hardly ever get to tell that story because that's the narrative that people want to dominate in the field, right? Yes, we may have to commit acts of sex work, but we also want to be loved. And there are times when we're not loving ourselves that we don't invest in ourselves enough to actually take care of ourselves. And when I started investing in me, I wanted nothing but the best for me. And I totally believe in the U equals U message.
So I'm going to go off script because I think they've answered all our original questions. But it occurs to me a couple of things. One is, based on what you just said, Tio, I mean, I guess I've heard from Dawn and Gina as well. Do you think that the U equals U message, as you've heard and understood and internalized it, is going to help women who may have resisted taking medications in the first case? Not everybody's on ART by choice in some cases. So do you think that this message makes that choice more, like there's a broader choice now that those who've hesitated for whatever reasons they've hesitated might change their mind about it at all? I'm not saying it should, I'm just wondering whether you think it would, and then part of it is probably about taking care of myself, trusting that it's going to have these great outcomes for me. Do you think that's going to happen at all? Or have you heard of any cases where it has changed the minds of somebody who wasn't willing to take treatment?
Willing to take treatment? Or interested? Okay, yes. And it comes from, again, like from my small town, right? I've heard women have called me. My best friend actually called me and told me that she would rather not know. She was worried that there was an opportunity, there was a chance that she contracted the virus, but she's like, I don't want to know, you know. And I told her, I said, well, I'm just talking about me. When I found out, I didn't have any resources to go to, so I had to research that. I got into treatment and found out I only needed to take 1 pill a day versus what I had seen on TV, because that's where they're stuck in their thinking, what they've seen on TV. And all that played in my head was the movie Philadelphia, you know, and the band played on. Like, I remember that as a child. I'm 40 years old now, but Dawn, 30 years. You know what I'm saying? 30 years. And I remember watching these after-school specials when I came home, and this is what they were talking about. So it terrified me. And it got to a point where I thought that that's what was destined for me. So I actually looked forward to it, like any day now, I'm gonna get that diagnosis and I'll be dead in like 30 days. Because life was bad. But when life got better, I was like, wait a minute, I'm still here. I am still here. That means that I have a purpose here. So it really changed my thinking. It really did. And what happened in that conversation was, you know, all you have to do is start with the test. I'm gonna be there with you every step of the way. You're gonna get, if that's the case, I'm not saying that it is, you're gonna get to undetectable status if you do this, that, and the other thing, right? And she believed me. She said, well, I'm going to get tested. You know, not that she had been positive, but I don't know, because we haven't had the conversation. I came here, but this was someone who adamantly did not want to know. So if you don't want to know, and if you find out, then you're not even going to get into treatment without someone being right there with you to guide you through every step. And I've been a peer navigator, you know, a case manager, a therapist, you know, a bank. I've been some of everything for people who needed it, because I felt alone. That's how I entered into the HIV arena. I entered into it very alone. And I don't want that for anybody coming after me.
I am a community organizer with the Southern AIDS Coalition. And one thing we do is something called the LEAD Academy. It stands for Leadership, Education, and Advocacy Development. And I have a group of 26 women in Florida that I'm working with right now. They'll graduate in 2 weeks. And when the first training we do, we bring in, Bruce gave us a PowerPoint on U equals U, so we do that. And you can see the light bulb go off. I mean, women are slumped down when you start talking, and then they start sitting up. And then they have a million questions. They want to know, like, okay, now how long do I have to take my medicine every day to become undetectable? Like, what if I have side effects? What do I do? I say, you tell your doctor, you know, about your side effects, but don't stop taking your medicine. And then they want to know, what do I have to disclose my status? I said, well, I live in a state that criminalizes HIV, so whether I'm undetectable or not, I have to disclose my status. Know the laws in your jurisdiction. I said, but you know what else U equals U does? And they were like, what? I said, it helps get rid of the stigma. It helps get rid of the stigma. And women have come back after our first training to the second training and said, you know, for the first time I feel normal. And I know how that feels. Because after getting this message, I started to feel normal. I started to feel like, wait a minute, I can get with somebody. And just be all I can be, you know. I feel so normal now. And it's the truth. But yes, we are seeing a shift. And I wish there was some way we could measure it. You know, maybe I'll talk to my executive director about putting that on our survey.
It's going on. It's already on.
I think one of the coolest things about this is it makes, I guess the only way I know to describe it is it makes me feel a little like we're no longer the subject, we're more the object of the sentence, which is a really good feeling. It's not about what you're doing to me, it's what I'm doing, and I'm okay, and I'm not a disease vector, and I'm, you know, I'm a healthy, contributing member of society. And yeah, I have to live with this disease. It's a pain in the ass, but the alternatives are great, and you know, I'm grateful to be here. You know, when in the early days of this, it was not one pill once a day. We were literally carrying fishing tackle boxes to take all of our medication, and I feel like a great dinosaur when I start talking about that, but I mean timers and beepers and unbelievable schedules and crazy amounts of pills, and people did say, I don't want to know, and I kind of understood that back in the early days, and then the treatments got better and there were more options, and then I started to feel like, no, it's always better to know. And now we're having an entirely different conversation. Now we are not having a your life is over conversation. Say what you can of it kind of thing. We're having a very, very different conversation. And that's really awesome.
I'm going to leave a few minutes for everybody to converse, but I did want to ask particularly Gina Brown a question. I don't know if the others of you want to answer about criminalization and whether you think U equals U will soon have an impact on the laws in various states that criminalize people living with HIV for even potential transmission.
So in the United States, we have criminalization laws that if you are living with some states have criminalization laws. If you're living with HIV, you can be charged for intentional exposure, whether you use the condom or not. Whether you disclosed or not. In my state, you can disclose, but if that person said you didn't disclose and you don't have proof, you could go to jail. I think what U equals U is a double-edged sword with that, because in one way we want to say, look, we're not disease vectors. We're not able to transmit HIV. But then what about the people who are not undetectable? So we don't want to have a, classism, but we also want our legislators to start using science, evidence-based stuff to make decisions. And even if you have a detectable viral load, what are the percentages of you, if you're a woman, transmitting HIV to someone else, but you're still charged? You know, I know North Carolina did go to their legislators with You Equals You, and they are no longer criminalizing people who are undetectable. And I'm like talking to Carolyn McAllister about that all the time. But I understand the sentiment around it. But we have to start using evidence-based knowledge to make decisions and policy that's impacting people. No one should go to, first of all, HIV is not a crime. We know that, right? It is not a crime. No one should go to jail because they're living with HIV. If you don't lock someone up because they have syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, or they have a form of herpes that the medicine don't even touch no more. If people are not going to jail for that, why are they going for HIV?
So in the time remaining, we're gonna, I guess we should send the mic around to people for questions because we can't be heard otherwise. So let me just open it up to anybody who wants to make a comment or a question. We only have about 5 minutes, I think officially, is that right?
Yeah.
And we can start with you.
Hi. Well, the first time that I heard You Equals You, I did like it a lot. However, I feel like there were some gaps. I'm not undetectable right now. And for me, it's not that it's not important, but like being undetectable for me is not because I don't want to transmit my HIV. It's because I want to be healthy. So for me, like, sometimes I feel like, you know, like, again, I don't feel like I'm the center, you know, so for HIV treatment. So for me, that's like an issue that I have. Also, I know many young people who are born HIV positive that they don't have any more options to take medication, so they will never are going to be able to become undetectable. Also, I would like to hear a bit more about breastfeeding because we are not talking about it so much, and also like access to treatment, because even though maybe in my country there is good access, I know that in the rest of the world, like, it's not real for many women, and for many women who are very vulnerable, and I don't know about breastfeeding. There are countries where the doctors recommend women to actually breastfeed because there's no other option. So I don't know if you have anything more about it.